This is huge news. It looks like the Biden administration was cooking the books. This is crazy. 818,000 jobs vanish from jobs report. So this is fascinating. When we get people like Don Lemon going out in the street and being like, who are you going to vote for? And they go, I'm voting for Trump. He goes, why? And they say the economy was better. And he goes, actually, that's not true. The economy is better now. Oh, turns out they were lying the whole time.
Yeah,
this is the largest revision in 15 years. They accidentally added 818,000 jobs to the reports that have been coming out. It was fake. And this is huge. The numbers are fake. They're saying that the Biden admin was cooking the books to make it look like the economy was good. And what's fascinating is you know what? Let me just pull this up from civics.com. State of the current economy. Let's find it here. Economy, current condition, and 38% very bad, 28% fairly good, 22% fairly bad, 9% very good. Okay, so let's just say we got 60% saying it's bad to some degree. Let's take a look at independent voters. Independent voters overwhelmingly think the economy is bad. 44% say very bad. 25% say fairly bad. Republicans even more so think the economy is bad. But for some reason, Democrats, it inverts. For some reason, Democrats think the economy is good. Now, that makes literally no sense at all, unless you realize these are people who think the economy is based off of government numbers, and Republicans and independents especially. Let's do this. Let's say Republicans are just partisan and they're like, the Democrats are in charge, so the economy is bad. Fine, I'll take it. Independents are saying the economy is bad. And these are people who are nonpartisan saying, I don't care for either party. My bills are too expensive. My groceries are too expensive. The economy is not good. Democrats think the economy is good because they've been cooking the books and putting out fake numbers. And now they've been rescinded right at the last minute.
Well, Democrats think that the economy is good because they have been told to believe what they are told, not to believe their senses and their eyes and ears. So that's what they do. They're told that the economy is good and they think, oh, I'm just struggling a little bit right now. It's not actually an indicator of economic problems. It's just me right now. I'm just having some issues. And they blame themselves. This is true of my family members who are lefty and struggling. And they're like, oh, I'm just having a tough time. I'm working 3 jobs. You know, I should be doing better.
The news said the economy was good.
And I'm like, but the economy's not good. Like, that's why you have 3 jobs right now. That's what's going on.
Trump accused the Biden-Harris administration of being caught fraudulently manipulating job statistics to hide the true extent of the economic ruin they have inflicted upon America. This is crazy. Take a look at, we have this, CNN. I haven't seen this clip. I saw this posted by Tom Elliott, so we'll watch this.
Breaking news into CNN right now. The job growth has been far weaker in the U.S. than originally reported. That is according to new data just coming in this morning. Let's get right to CNN's Matt Egan. What's the headline, Matt?
Jim, 818,000 fewer jobs were added during the period between April 2023 and March of this year. We were bracing for these revisions to come out and show that job growth was weaker, and that is what we got. This is probably on the high end of the expectations. Some of the forecasters have been
high end,
probably around few 100,000 jobs. Goldman Sachs had said maybe.
Let me show you this clip. This is Biden-Harris Commerce Secretary.
This is shocking. Raymond,
this one's got everybody freaking out.
When you hear that, do you potentially think that this new numbers could be a liability for this campaign?
No. When I hear that, first of all, I don't believe it because I've never heard Donald Trump say anything truthful.
It is, though, from the Bureau of Labor.
I'm not familiar with that.
When you hear that.
So a lot of people are saying she's not familiar with the Bureau of Labor. No. She's talking about the report. This is the schizophrenic derangement. And this is the biggest. This woman exemplifies so well the danger this country faces. I was hanging out several months ago playing a game of poker. And some guy lost his mind at the poker table when someone asked me who I was voting for. And I was like, Trump, of course. And the guy said, Trump has never said anything truthful in his life. And then some other random guy who does not seem very political went, are you kidding me? Come on. The guy talked about sports before. That's stupid. The idea that you would genuinely say something, like genuinely believe Trump has never told the truth before is derangement. It proves this woman's got a fractured psyche where her brain, her prefrontal cortex has ceased to function. Donald Trump has talked about reality TV before. Even if you think he's lying about politics, it's impossible to say the guy's never told the truth about anything ever. They are insane. And they're ignoring the fact that apparently they were cooking the books.
Well, she's also using a very sophisticated deflection technique, right? We know the Bureau of Labor Statistics is the one that put this number out. It has nothing to do with Donald Trump. He's just repeating what the government actually put out. But she manages in the very first part of the sentence to say she doesn't think it's true. Well, the government just said it. And, nominally she's in charge of that bureau through her department. But then, two, it's like the fact that Donald Trump said anything or whatever has nothing, is completely immaterial. So the majority of the people, not the majority, but a large swath of people will come away from that thinking, oh, I heard enough, it's not true. And it's just pure deflection. But
the fascinating thing is that you don't need a jobs report to know the economy is not going well. Yeah. I went to the grocery store and a can of whipped cream was $6.
And in here, true. It's like, don't believe your lying eyes. I don't know if half of these people ever go to the grocery store, but like $100, my estimation used to fill up the back of a station wagon. Now it's 2 bags worth.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Like you go out there and you're just like, how I can't go to the grocery store for under $60. It's like, what's going on? But they're saying that the numbers are from I think April 23 to. Or August 23 to March.
April and March. Yeah.
Like we're not even talking about the up to present. So I think it's a little dog bites man kind of thing when you say that the numbers coming out of the Biden administration are cooked. I always assume they are, and they're always going to revise them after the fact. But in this particular case, the fact that they had the courage to do it during the pendency of the DNC is interesting.
The revision.
Well, yeah, because they wanted to just hide it.
Yeah.
Because everybody is paying attention. They're like singing and dancing and they're having joy and they're having vibes.
Well,
the Biden administration even has what they're calling a vibrarian. Did you guys see this? A vibrarian.
Uh-huh.
Who their job, it's like a Gen Z person in the White House, and her entire job is checking social media to see. Axios had it. We covered it as well, but her whole job is to check the socials and see what people are feeling and then let the administration know so that they can counter the feels.
I like that word because it sounds a lot like vivarium. And I would argue the Democrats have a functional political vivarium as well. Right. And that's basically how they keep their voter base living in this broken fake world.
What's vivarium?
It's like a fish tank. It's like a it's like a little tank where you put the animals in it and then they live in their fake little world where they don't know.
I thought you said vibrarium, and it was
I said
vibranium.
Vibranium.
No, but they're saying like the vibes librarian.
That's funky.
Is the White House.
Vibrarian.
I mean, don't call him that. At least just call him like an analyst or something.
Right? Yeah, it's Molly Opinski.
We should just be like Democrats are disqualified from.
That wouldn't be true democracy.
I don't care.
They don't have it. We don't have a true democracy right now where you can just install a person from the top down and then declare that person has grassroots support. It's such lies, and it's such obvious lies. And I can tell that it's getting dicey over there because my mom stopped talking to me about politics. She's like super lefty, and she always wants to argue with me about politics. And I recently spent a very tense week hanging out with her where she couldn't figure out what to talk to me about, but she definitely would not bring up politics. And I wasn't going to bring it up because she hates my job. She hates my job.
Yeah, but
she
like
started,
you'd win every
telling
argument.
Everybody like that she could find that she wished I went into accounting. And I was like, Mom, that was never on the table. I went to art school. I was never going into accounting. Where did you get this crazy idea?
Don't you just win every debate?
No, because I don't want to debate with my mom. She gets grouchy and she cries and then she's very stressed out and
maybe
like it ruins dinner. I don't need a ruined dinner.
I completely disagree.
I have ruined dinner.
The economy is ruining.
And now it's not worth it anymore.
I completely disagree. I think the reason that people persist in these delusions is because people don't want to ruin dinner.
She doesn't debate. She walks away and she gets angry and then she like talks to me about how I'm a terrible person and blames me for things, and it's just like.
And then ask her next time that happens.
Do you guys not have weird moms who like don't make any sense, and it's just
my mom's
to
based.
try and like, no, your mom's great. That's right.
She's a math teacher,
and she's terrific. My mom is great in her own totally different way that doesn't jive.
I gotta figure out the tone when I talk to my mom, because if my tone gets out of control or out of whack, she'll shut down. But if I can stay calm,
the shutdown. Yes, my mom does the shutdown.
I haven't chatted with my parents yet since Kamala became the nominee, whatever. I've been fantasizing about being like, so what do you guys think about protecting our democracy by installing a candidate without being voted for? And what they're gonna say, they haven't talked to me about it. They haven't brought it up at all. Rarely do they.
It's broken brains, man.
I think
there's nothing there anymore.
It's
you know what's really crazy is this will probably shock a lot of people. Ask if you haven't talked to a loved one, a friend, a family member in a long time. Ask them if Donald Trump called Nazis very fine people. They believe it. They still do. Joe Biden just said it again at the DNC. They still think it's true. It's remarkable to me that anyone still thinks that's true. Even Snopes debunked it.
It's
7 years
because
later.
It's part of their catechism.
It is.
It's not reality. It's part of their actual religion.
That's a good way to put it.
It's scripture to them.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, so we all have, besides Tim, I don't know about yourself there, Paul, but all of elders that are on the left spectrum that we have to fight with and kind of convince the reality is real and they don't want to go with the reality.
Yeah.
I don't fight with them anymore.
They're willing to, though. If it's blatant, they'll accept it. Fortunately, I watched this video of Zelensky saying the Americans are not funding the war in Ukraine, and I watched it with my dad, and then I was like, he said we're not funding. He said, no, he said we're not fighting the war in Ukraine. I was like, no, he said funding. Let's rewind it and watch. So he did, begrudgingly. But then when we watched, he was like, you're right. I'll eat that one. You were right.
Funding. We're not funding.
He said Zelensky blatantly lied and said that right after we sent them $61 billion, he went on MSNBC and said, no, the Americans are not funding the war in Ukraine. And I was like, yeah, we just sent $61 billion.
What you got to do is you got to put parental controls when you go visit them so they can't watch MSNBC or CNN anymore.
It's so funny.
When they're not in the room, just switch the code.
Yeah.
Just put they're like, why can't I watch this
I'm
anymore?
a little older than you guys, but both of my parents passed, right? My mom was a treasure, right? She was a public school teacher, genius, right? She was a chemist. My parents met; they were government scientists, right? They were both first in their families to go to college, but politics. Maybe now you guys talk politics with your parents. It wasn't a thing really when I was growing up, and we weren't at this level of division in the country. You certainly would not have kind of fights over Thanksgiving about politics. There was a little bit of weirdness, but this really came into being, I think, maybe 10, 15 years ago, and certainly really coalesced under the
think
left.
It was before that.
It's before this, and it's generational.
Okay.
So people need to understand that our culture is basically an organism unto itself that ages. It is not that one day political polarization existed. It is that 20, 30 years ago, political polarization was injected into millennials and two different worldviews were being taught to children. Yeah. So now as those children age, the division ages along with it. When millennials enter the workforce, the existing political division enters the workforce with the millennials.
I saw it was 2006 is when I noticed it was the shattering of the narrative that we were the good guys and the war in Iraq was just. When social media appeared in internet news, when independent journalism came out and they're like, actually, there were no weapons of mass destruction. Because before that, in the 90s, we all believed what we were told on NBC. We would sit around, the news would be on, but no one questioned it. And then we went to war in Iraq and it was like, okay, hit the brakes. What in the hell is going on? And then the people that learned about the liberal international order started to really wake up really quickly. And the others that haven't really delved into it are still kind of in that paradigm.
Yeah.
Well, it's cultural. It's internet based. When we looked at the polls discussing whether or not someone thought a civil war was likely in this country, the silent generation overwhelmingly says no. It's like 10 or 12% says there will be. When you go to boomers, it jumps up to 20-something%. When you go to Gen X, it jumps up to 30-some-odd%. When you go to millennials, it jumps up to 40-some-odd%. And then Gen Z, it's over 50. The polarization is generational. That's why, you're saying, Paul, you didn't have this, it wasn't there.
I mean,
and we're saying it happens with our own families.
I went to MIT undergrad and grad. And so this was before Al Gore invented the internet, right? They actually had it at MIT, believe it or not. And that's what we were beginning to use. We'd go to our locker and download things and go to the mainframe computers and actually work on the internet. I went into law school and then right when the late 90s, when I was going to practice in New York, to use the internet, you would have to go to the IT department and actually, like phone in, basically. That was the very beginning of it. But I went to work at a big New York firm that represented a lot of the traditional media companies. And I think the real break point where that narrative, the control, the Walter Cronkite control got broken, if memory serves, is with Monica and the dress and Drudge and getting out and basically saying, this led to the Bill Clinton impeachment. But they other mainstream media had that story, and they colluded, and they decided they weren't going to run it. But then Matt Drudge ran it, and it changed the world. So
here's the question for your parents: if you did not eat breakfast yesterday, how would you have felt?
Wouldn't they just say hungry?
The point of the question is that people of low IQ can't comprehend conditional hypotheticals.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So when you say, if you did not have breakfast yesterday, how would you have felt? It's a meme. They go, but I did have breakfast. And you go, no, but if you didn't, how would you have felt? What do you mean? I had breakfast. And you're like, oh.
Let me open the box so you can think outside of it a little easier.
Here's the challenge. And I think this question should actually be asked of many Democrats. If you cannot understand hypotheticals, you cannot build a machine. If we are to ask ourselves, how do we form a government? How do we make sure the government works and that there's justice, accountability, and it keeps working? Okay, well, you need to ask yourself hypothetical questions. What happens if in our government an election is rigged? Like, let's just say hypothetically, someone rigs an election. What would the mechanism be by which we resolve that problem? I know. Simple idea. You file a lawsuit, okay? If your state believes that your election was rigged or improperly handled, you file a lawsuit to challenge the results so that a court can actually go through the documents and the arguments to determine whether or not the election was held properly. We got a problem then. The problem is the federal government has expectations and deadlines. The federal government is a separate entity from the state government. So if you're in the state of, say, Illinois, and you believe the election was not properly handled, well, the federal government still requires the paperwork be submitted and filed because your dispute has nothing to do with them. Okay. If you and your brother are arguing over who should pay for the concert tickets, Ticketmaster does not care at all. They're like, look, give me the money for the tickets. You guys sort it out after the fact. Okay. So what you'd need to do is you would need to have your electors file the paperwork, submit them to the federal government, conditionally stating we're waiting for adjudication on these results. Should they change, should the judge ruling come in, we'll let you know, but we're making sure we're getting our paperwork in before the deadline for the federal government, a separate jurisdiction. Then the court rules maybe a month later and says, you know what? Actually, this election was improperly handled, and we're going to certify the other slate, which have been submitted to the federal government. Then they send word and legal documents from the governor saying, yep, we took care of it. And you know where this process came from? Hawaii in 1960, because it literally happened.
With Kennedy and Nixon.
And so what happened in 2020 with Donald Trump and all these states? Literally the same thing, just more states.
And except now they're locking up the electors.
That's right, because they're psychotic, fascistic despots.
Electors, and they're locking up these grandmas who were just available in case there was a recount and the election went the other way.
But if you can't understand a hypothetical situation and you say to someone, we did not properly adjudicate these claims, so we don't know, the response from someone who can't mentally understand is just, but it was certified. Yes, I understand, but we did not review evidence. We have to look at the arguments. The arguments are not, in most cases, that someone made a fake ballot and mailed it in. The arguments were that the governors and the judges did not have the authority under the Constitution to alter the rules of the election. Only the state legislature did. Therefore, any changes that were made make the election improper and are up for challenge. But we never actually got proper adjudication.
Yeah, it's very irritating to see this whole the narrative that spread from 2020 forward belies 200 years of history, the actual United States statutes, and the Constitution. This Electoral Count Act, this was how it was always done. And anybody who cracked open an actual history book in high school and took American history would understand there were disputed elections. This very process was put in place to weigh various slates of electors, and there were some traditional fights involved in it. So this was just the next iteration of American history.
Thanks for watching this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to check out the live show Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. on this channel. Subscribe, and we'll see you all there.